Duelists, it is I, Hellgear, and TCGPlayer just dropped an interesting topic about the Melffy engine being busted. And I'm going to take this opportunity to read this very topic and leave my thoughts on it. Now, if you've already read this particular topic, please leave your thoughts of it and what I may have to say on the matter in the comments section below. Also, be sure to like this video, sub to the channel, and hit that bell. We're trying to get to 2,000 subs. Now, some of you may already know this, but I personally play the Melffys themselves. And that's why it's very relevant to my interests. I've done multiple deck profiles on the channel about this. So I have the cards here just to give a little bit more of a insight onto it. Now, to those of you who've never played Melffy, I'll just give you the quick breakdown. The Melffy deck is a level 2 beast deck. Yes, level 2, that means sprite interactions, blah, 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 blah. They were first introduced in Legendary Duelist Season 1 with their normal monster, Melffy Rabby. And in Rise of the Duelist, many more of Rabby's friends came out. This is an aggro deck that is mainly extra deck based on Xyz summoning, and they do a lot of bouncing. But in Power of the Elements, they got some new support. While they're primarily Earth attribute, one of the monsters that came in Power of the Elements, Melffy Penny, is Water attribute. And they got the Synchro monster, as you just saw me show off from my deck, Merry Melffys. Now that the quick came up, let's just read about this. Melffy winning a YCS? What the heck is happening in Yu-Gi-Oh? Well, first and foremost, Melffy is no stranger to the competitive scene. Okay? Originally, when Melffy was hitting the scene, they were combined with the Tri-Brigade archetype to make the Melffy Brigade deck. And a little bit more heat was packed into a regularized aggro deck. This card's busted. Yes, Melffy Caddy is pretty good. I won't lie about that. So let's read this baby off. A lot of cool shifts have happened in competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Since the triple YCS weekend 2 weeks ago. With the pace of competitions cooled down a bit, waiting for the Philadelphia's YCS at the end of May, there's still plenty of regional qualifiers, VIP qualifiers, and other big events you want to pull inspiration from. In the meantime, events you might be competing in yourself. Good luck PK Sparks going to Philly. SIAC is just around the corner too, and you don't want to get caught unaware of the latest trends heading into this set. You want to make sure you can update your strategies of fish effectively and efficiently no matter what deck you're playing so you can stay on top of your competition. Yeah, somebody gotta work on that spell check. The trend we're going to be springing up right now might not hold through the YCS SIAC. That set's going to bring lots of swerves, but I think it's worth right now. And they might get you an advantage over your opponent in whatever tournaments you're prepping for. Whenever I'm reading tournament coverage, I always like the tech updates and reading about what players on the floor are using to get an edge. Often, those small advantages have massive implications for the format, but they're often overlooked by the majority of competitors. That means you'll catch people off guard. Yeah, that's called a rogue deck. Gamma, we know about this, because it is a level 2 hand trap. With all that in mind, here are the 5 biggest trends, biggest tech picks from the current competition. Let's start off with a standout winner from YCS London, Melffy Sprite. Yep, Melffy does work in here. As I said, it's level 2s. This is one that I've really been into lately. The Melffy engine really just 2 main deck cards, Caddy and Penny. Interesting. So you're only using the tuner and the caddy. So let's just talk about that really fast. Now, the Melffy effect monsters all share a similar effect that if your opponent summons a monster or said Melffy is selected as an attack target, it tags itself into the deck to special summon a different thing. Now in the case of Melffy Caddy, of course, as you can see on here, 35 cents for it. Go back to the, yes, we're going to go back to this. I'm just going to read it off. You see the picture right there. So again, Caddy and Penny. So, again, if your opponent normal or special summons monsters except during the damage step, or if an opponent's monster targets this card for an attack, all the Melffys share this effect, by the way, majorly. You can return this card to the hand, and then they have their individual effects. In the case of Caddy, you add a beast monster from deck to hand except for Caddy. And then, of course, during the end phase, you can special summon this card from your hand. And these are all once per turn effects. So essentially, this can get you a beast Rhoda. And that's how Caddy works. Penny is the tuner that came out recently. So, here's how Penny works, just to set the scene here. If a face-up beast monster you control was returned to the hand this turn except for Penny, quick effect, you can special summon this card from your hand, then immediately after this effect resolves, synchro summon a synchro monster using only this card and Melffy monsters in your hand. Essentially, Penny replaces the Hop Ear Squadron you had before, which was a level 2 wind attribute beast. During your end phase, if this card is in your graveyard, target a Beast Exceeds monster you control and attach this card to it as material. This works great for 3 of its Beast Exceeds monsters, which they will probably talk about a little bit later on. Here we go. Special summoning Melffy Caddy from your hand in the end phase for free, no strings attached. From there you can bounce it to your hand when your opponent summons a monster or attacks the caddy, and it searches you another beast from your deck. The valid searches in Sprite would be Nimble Beaver, or the best option, Melffy Penny. The Penny's an incredibly powerful little card. If you've returned a Melffy, I just explained this. Alright, so we just talked about that. And here are some examples of the level 4s. For example, the Herald of Arclight, really good tech for this card, for this deck, serving as a negate, and of course the synchro monster, Merry Melffys. I won't read it off because this is going to talk about it. The Herald is legitimately a sort of, we have Kashtira Riseheart at home, packing a Macrocosmos type effect for cards that would hit the graveyard to the hand or main deck. And you contribute it off to negate anything Merry Melffys is another strong option, letting you return a face-up monster to the hand on summon. That's another layer of disruption, and its next effect can even pivot Melffy of the Forest for rank 2 if needed. To clarify, when you special summon Merry Melffys, not just synchro summon, but if this card is special summoned, target a face-up monster on the field and bounce it. So it's a bounce on summon. If your opponent normal or special summons monsters except during the damage step, or if your opponent targets this card for an attack, you can bounce this card to the extra deck, then special summon a Melffy Exceeds monster from your extra deck. And again, the effects are once per turn. So how the main Melffys tag in from the main deck, Merry Melffys, being the level 4 synchro, can tag into the Exceeds monsters in the extra deck. One of the best things about the Melffy Sprite deck is its consistency. It's really good at getting to all those negations. Any 2 monsters effectively end on a full combo, which is kind of horrifying to think about. The Sprite deck's always been reliable, but with the Melffys backing you up, and you can disregard Gigantic Sprite altogether in a number of scenarios, they need to resolve Gigantic Sprite to be used used to be a huge choke point, but now you almost use it as bait in a lot of situations. If it works, that's great, and you're further along. Melffy of the Forest. This is the first of many of the Melffy Xyz monsters. And it is your backup plan for when Gigantic Sprite doesn't work. All the Melffys have been reprinted, and they're cheaper now. You can almost common charity Melffys. The powerful Melffy of the Forest is another layer of consistency and interruption, again all in a card, with an effect that searches a Melffy monster and a negation that triggers when you bounce a Melffy to the hand. This deck has so much room for hand traps and powerful spells too. Remember a few weeks ago when I mentioned how compact the Sprite engine is? This deck's a prime example of that, as we saw in Samir Bakir's winning deck at London. He had the space for a whopping 14 tech cards off theme. Damn, that's a lot of tech. That type of flexibility made it really easy to see 2 different tech cards in his opening hand. He'd get them in almost 60% of games. Oh, somebody did a video about that. We're not going to go into it. That's why the deck is so flexible. You can customize your flex spots to fit your expected metagame and beat whatever you think you'll come up against. Cross out Designator, oh how you failed so often. I can't remember many cards that got more hype than Designator did on its release, only for it to stumble and never hit its stride. This card has some certain successes. Don't get me wrong, it tops up the top cuts here and there, but in the 250th YCS, really gave it a big spotlight in Tom Klingenbacher's Kashtira deck. Okay, so we're talking about other techs. That's beautiful. Let's just skip ahead to some other stuff here. Or is that it for it, huh? Nope. Okay, so that's it. Alright, so Melffy as its own engine is pretty useful. And the fact that you're using Melffy of the Forest to go into negates is really nice. So I might as well read off the actual text for Melffy of the Forest just to give you a little idea of how this baby works. You need any 2 level 2 monsters. You can detach a material from this card and add a Melffy card from deck to hand. So it's a rota on detach for anything, not just the spells that Caddy gets you. If another face-up Melffy monster you control returns to your hand outside of the damage step, target a face-up monster your opponent controls. It cannot attack, also negate its effects while it's face-up on the field. So not only do you lock it out, you also shut it off. And that's what's so good about Melffy of the Forest. Now, I personally have the original ultra rare printing from Rise of the Duelist, but the super rare printing is what you see on display. Melffy is a cheap engine, by the way. Now let's just talk about Melffy in general. What are some other tech cards that you can play in a Melffy deck or a Melffy extra deck? Well, since these are level 2 monsters and beasts at that, any of the beast variations of things you can get into your hand out the gate. One of them being Obedience School. Getting 3 different level 2 or lower effect beast monsters can really set you up big time. Alright, sure the effects are negated and the Melffys you don't use, and the beasts you don't use die, but you're going to be using all 3 of them, especially if you run one of them being the level 1 key mouse as a tuner. So you can take, instead of Melffy Penny, you can go into Caddy, you can go into the Rabby. Oh wait, you can't go into Rabby because you need effect monsters. You can go Caddy, you can go into, let's say, Fenny. And where's my caddy? Let me go grab my cat. There you are. So you can use Obedience School and go Key Mouse, Fenny, and Caddy in a basic Melffy deck. And what this does is, because Key Mouse is a tuner, you can tune all of these away, and you can get you a familiar face in another competitive deck out right now, known as Nat Beast. And you can do that quite easily. And on the first turn too. Remember, Runic's using Naturia for all those out there. There. And with Obedience School going unresolved, going at least into a Nat Beast in your extra deck, that's a pretty powerful play. One of the things I've also talked about was taking your 3 that you would call off Obedience School and then tribute summon for an old school card, Behemoth, the King of All Animals. Now, what's great about Behemoth, the King of All Animals, and this is a fun tech that I use, is when you successfully tribute summon Behemoth, the King of All Animals, you get back monsters in your graveyard that you use as resources. The big bad boss monster of Xyz in Melffy decks is number 64, Ronin Raccoon Sandayu. And this is your big equalizer here. Also, being a beast, this is primarily something that you would play in here. I don't know if you're going to play Mannequin Cat or not, because most Sprite decks play Mannequin Cat and Onibimaru the Soul Eater, that weird rank 2 zombie. But that's some other things that you can play. Now, trap-wise, this is something that I like to play, and I think Thrifty Duelist, shout outs to this guy, also thought of this too, and that's the Phantom Knights of Wrong Magnet Ring. Now, there's a reason I did this particular one, because I also play the Phantom Knights of Cursed Javelin in my Melffy Extra deck. So, simply put, Wrong Magnet Ring is a negate attack, and after you've negated the attack, it special summons itself as a level 2 Dark Warrior monster in attack position. So on the last time your opponent will attack you in a turn, you can have your Wrong Magnet Ring activated. And then on your next turn, you can normal summon a Melffy monster and then overlay them into Cursed Javelin. Now, to those of you who don't know, Cursed Javelin has an effect where you detach a material and you strip a monster of its attack points. And if you have a Phantom Knights card as material, this is a quick effect. So, what you would do is you'd overlay your Caddy or your Fenny or your Penny and a copy of Wrong Magnet Ring, and you'll go into Cursed Javelin. Okay? Now, when your opponent wants to swing at you, because you're only 1600, you can detach the Melffy material from this, and as a quick effect, drain the opponent's monster's attack points. And because the Phantom Knights Wrong Magnet Ring is equipped still to it, or excuse me, one of its Xyz materials, this is a quick effect that you can use 2 times during your match. And then you can simply link this away. I do like the fact that Melffy as an engine is a really solid choice for duelists, and since the Melffy deck is super duper budget, getting everything you need is pretty easy. A lot easier than Pi. Most of the cards are common with a few super rares. Now, unfortunately, I have to talk about the man himself. I think this is male, and that's Melffy, the one who brought all the friends to the game. Now, Melffy doesn't look like much. Alright, that's the thing. No attack, but 2100 defense. Melffy has been taken out of a lot of the Melffy builds. However, Melffy has a secret technique in one of the Power of the Elements cards, known as Melffy Staring Contest. The good thing about this is, when you have Melffy Staring Contest on the field, you can even pitch this, which is normally a brick, to get you a different beast. But when your opponent attacks you, you can reveal Melffy monsters in your hand and strip your opponent of attack points equal to the combined attack and defense of your Melffys. So, if you have Melffy in your hand when you activate Staring Contest, you're literally stripping 2100 attack points from an opponent's monster when they attack you. Remember, the Staring Contest continuous spell combines the attack and defense of all the Melffys to reduce the attacking monster's strength. And with 2100 defense, 2100 is a very significant attack debuff, no matter what your monster is. The last little bit of tech that I like to play in Melffy decks, and this is one that's obviously critical, well, critical in my opinion, but a very useful one outside of Obedience School, is our good friend Rescue Cat. Rescue Cat can tribute itself and get you 2 beast monsters if it goes unresolved. So, you can literally go into 2 level 2 beast monsters. So, for example, you can use Rescue Cat, send it to the graveyard, and then you can take your Melffy Penny, which I just had. You can take your Penny, and you can take, oh, okay, sure, I'll use Puppy this time. So you can take Penny and Puppy, right? And unlike Obedience School, this doesn't lock you into beasts. You can summon your Rescue Cat, tribute your Rescue Cat, special summon both Penny and Puppy. Then you can sink these 2 away and go for Merry Melffys. And then bounce an opponent's monster. The fact that the Melffy deck has such easy combo lines to go into is very useful for many stages of the game. But that's all I wanted to say as far as this little discussion on Melffys. What are your thoughts on this deck? I plan to update this deck profile a little bit later on. But for now, please share your thoughts of the Melffys in the comment section below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.